think. I mean, it's already looking kind of bad. I like the concept of the show enough to be curious about it. I mean, maybe the story could be half decent, right? Man, if only. Anyways, the two men are saved by Kathleen, and an old man named Maeda pulls up in a car to pick them up. Maeda is a generic jolly old man with a pretty likable personality. They travel together as we learn about the lore. A pandemic broke out in Europe and was transferred all over the world. The disease is called Jibia, and it turns human beings into various monsters based on various factors that legitimately don't fucking matter. Anyways, this disease also came over to Japan, and the world has turned upside down. Now they fight to try and survive as they also try to create a vaccine to cure this disease once and for all. This disease is passed on to humans when a Jibia uses its stinger to sting a human. Afterwards, it's said that the victim will begin hearing the sounds of roaring water, and it'll become louder and louder until you transform into a Jibia. Also, they hate light for some unexplained reason, just like a generic vampire type weakness, whatever. But here's the real lore that they don't want to tell you about the GB8 universe. There's a deadlier disease called character developmentitis. It's a disease that affects NPCs where if you show any character development in any way, you will die without fail. The first symptom an NPC might notice is usually developing an actual personality trait. After that, the symptoms may vary, but regardless of what they are, death is inevitable. Whenever I watch a show like this, I tend to latch onto any character who I find interesting because I need some way to keep myself sane while watching these awful shows. But this was where GB8 really decided to troll me, because this show decided that no character should be interesting ever. And if a character ever shows symptoms of being interesting, then they for sure will not be surviving the series. It's almost like the show is allergic to having interesting characters. Anyways, as they ride the car back to Kathleen and Maeda's camp, Sensui mentions that he's a samurai. Maeda said that he has a katana at home and went to retrieve it by himself. And I would feel like it'd be safer for people to stick together during the apocalypse, but logic isn't really the show's strong point. Anyways, a very obvious death flag. The show is also extremely predictable most of the time. I remember the moment I saw Maeda be interesting, I had a suspicion that he would be the first one to die. So we finally arrive at the camp, and Kathleen introduces the two strange men to everyone, who all begin to judge them like, hey yo, what the fuck are these samurai cosplay like weirdo chunibills doing here, and talking match. But this also doesn't really mean anything since 99% of this camp will be dead soon anyways. We're now introduced to Dr. Yoshinaga, who has A, one of the most generic designs any anime doctor slash professor slash smart person figure has ever had, and B, his voice actor does not match his face.
私の名前は吉永だ。人を動物のように変えてしまう病気を研究している。侍や忍者がいてもそこまで不思議ではない。
You might recognize his voice as Shanks from One Piece. While it's cool that he's in this show, I'm sorry, but I think anyone else would have been a better choice as Dr. Yoshinaga's voice actor. He really nails in that NPC-ness with the way he speaks the dialogue. It's just insanely bad. It's just the blandest, least given delivery of all time. Dr. Yoshinaga is also probably the worst written character in the entire series, which in itself is an achievement because there are no well-written characters in the entire GB8 universe. But you'll see why I say this as we go on. Dr. Yoshinaga is trying to create a vaccine to cure the Jibia disease, but needs the main character's help in collecting samples to research. It literally sounds like one of those fetch quests, and he's the NPC just giving you that quest, and the rewards you usually get are jack shit, like this is Fallout 4. We also meet Adam, a member of the camp who is harsh with his words, but is low-key a softie inside, and Brian, a former military general. We're also introduced to Kathleen's mom, who is a lady so tragically mentally broken that apparently she is unable to tell humans apart from Jibia, which I don't really know if I buy it considering the grotesqueness and awful appearance of the Jibia, but fine, whatever. I'm sure the pandemic has been extremely traumatizing for those involved in it. Episode 1 kind of just ends with the introduction of the characters. It wasn't a good start for sure, but when I was watching it, I felt like I hadn't seen enough of the show to see why people said this anime was so bad. Dear God, I miss the times when I was still clueless and felt like this show had any potential. Episode 2 begins with a camera vlog interview of Sensui. I won't talk too deeply about this, but every episode starts off with like a little vlog interview of each main character where we learn a bit more about them and their past. While I do like the concept, it's not very effective when you give absolutely no shit about any of the characters that appear in the show. I mean, in essence, it's the same thing as filming a ripped piece of cardboard on the ground, then forcing the viewer to care about that piece of cardboard. At this point, something about Sensei becomes crystal clear. He's basically Kujo Jotaro from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but with somehow even less of a personality than Jotaro. Jotaro can be considered somewhat bland by some. I would say that this bland personality is Jotaro's charm. He's unwavering, loyal to his companions, and although he doesn't show much emotion, he is a caring man who fights for what he believes is right. You can also throw in a little bit of Levi Ackerman from Attack on Titan Shin in there. He's a badass, cool, but you also know that he's carrying a lot. Sensui is basically a shitty mixture of these two characters I just said, but take out everything that makes Jotaro and Levi interesting or likable and replace it with nothing. Just hollow, empty space. The relationships between the characters are also butchered. It seemed like they would constantly tease these various friendships and relationships forming throughout the show, but never actually show us how the characters interact with each other most of the time. It would all just happen behind the scenes, and we would just be spoon-fed the information. Like a mother force-feeding her child a disgusting mixture of gunk that's supposed to be nutritious. It really takes a lot away from the show. I feel like part of what makes us care about a character is not just the character themselves, but the way they integrate themselves into a series and the cast of main characters. And none of this shit exists anywhere in GBA. Anyways, we watch as Maeda comes back to camp in the dead of night when the GBA are most active and dangerous. He manages to make it back to the camp with the protection of the others in the camp, including Adam and Brian. And I'm just watching this like, I don't know, couldn't Kathleen and the others literally drive him to his place, get the katana with him, and then drive back to the camp with him all safely? I don't know. Like, the conclusion is that trying to apply any logic to this show will end up just nowhere. So don't even bother. It was at this point that I was starting to find everybody but the main three characters interesting. Maeda is a jolly old man with a love for katanas. Adam is a hard-headed asshole who you know cares deep inside. And even Brian, who is still pretty much an NPC, watches his military comrades all get killed and turn into Jibia. And can you guess how many of these three characters I just listed survive until the end of the show? The camp's lights go out randomly, and I don't remember there being any explanation for this except plot convenience. And now the Jibia can come in and attack them in the camp. And of course, just as I predicted, Maeda hands the katana off to Sensui, but gets stung by a Jibia in the process. This activates Sensui's serious badass mode, where his eyes glow red when he holds a katana. Wow, a true warrior. He practically becomes the blade. I can see this being cool or badass in any other damn show ever, but when GB8 does it, it feels just extremely cheesy because there's just nothing to back up the cheese. There is zero charm coming at all from this series. During this attack, there is a genuinely freaky moment where Kathleen's mom talks to someone approaching her as if it's someone she knows, only for it to turn out to be a Jibia. I think this is one of the only genuinely good moments of the show. It surprised me and it showed me Kathleen's mom's state of mind and how broken she actually was, rather than just having them tell us this like they do with everything else. I want more of the show, not tell storytelling, please. The campfight scene is where the show goes from, I don't see how this is so bad, to, oh no, this is bad. I don't even know if I'd call them fight scenes or fight slideshows, because that's pretty much what these are. You got these awful Oblivion NPC looking ass Jibia all just invading the camp, and then you see these characters sequentially fight against these enemies like 1, 2, 3. It's like watching one person puppet all these characters, and they can only move one character at a time, so the others just end up awkwardly staring while they watch as the one character does his awkward fighting animation. I think the easiest way for me to compare the fight scenes in GB would be to compare them to a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fight scene. If you haven't seen the show, I'll briefly describe a JoJo fight to you. A JoJo fight scene isn't really about the action happening on the screen, but rather the thoughts that go behind what happens in the fight that allows for the character to win against the villain. Low-key, every fight in JoJo is pretty much a slideshow. It's not like watching a Jujutsu Kaisen or Demon Slayer fight scene. Those are a lot more fluid. A basic JoJo fight would be they encounter a stand user. One of the main characters face off against them, and during the fight, we would hear the characters' inner monologues in constant dilemma and trying to figure out how to outsmart the enemy and win the fight. It's cheesy as hell, but I think JoJo is able to pull it off well because the characters are usually unique, charismatic, or someone we want to cheer for, or we want to see how they end up winning the fight. I also think it works because this is how you get to know the characters in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. A GB8 fight scene is kind of like that, but they take out all of the inner monologues, which is pretty much like 90% of every JoJo fight scene. So you just get the 10% of the actual fighting moments only, which means what you get is just a shitty slideshow with no substance behind it. It literally feels like the most pointless thing to ever watch. It's not like the fights themselves are engaging enough for me to give a shit. I know the main characters are gonna survive just because they're coated in oozes of plot armor. It's not even like the animation itself is good either. It feels like a PowerPoint I made in middle school, but I would add like the transition effects in between slides and the text line flying in from the side, and I would be like, God, this is such a goated PowerPoint. It is so whack. Somehow, I found the fight scenes to be the most boring parts of the show, when I felt like it should be one of the more engaging parts. I I can't. Also, once again, the GBHs just look awful. Burn them all. Anyways, after the deadliest slideshow of all time, the main characters are able to survive. Sadly, we watch as Maeda passes away. He hears the sounds of running water getting louder and louder, a sign that he is going to be turning into a Gibeah soon. They put him out of his misery before that could happen, and we get some very brief flashbacks of Maeda, who had taken good care of Kathleen until then, as Kathleen cries over the loss of someone she cared about. Like I mentioned before, Kathleen's entire personality trait is crying over people she loses, and this happens multiple times in the show. I feel like losing that many people in your life will lead to some kind of character development, but Kathleen stays frustratingly stagnant throughout the entire show, like a true Skyrim NPC. Also, Kenroku dyes his hair blue for some reason, becoming a rip-off Jonathan Joestar, probably so that we're actually able to tell him apart from the generic NPC. By the end of episode 2, the issues with GBA were becoming crystal clear. The lore is cool, the concept is great, the characters do have the bare bones to be developed into actually likable or interesting characters. The show could be suspenseful and exciting to watch, but it's not. They took all of this potential and absolutely destroyed it into smithereens. Moving on to episode 3. This time, Kathleen vlog interviews Kinroku, and we find out that apparently Kathleen looks like Kinroku's wife from the past. Wow, what a coincidence! Honestly, I don't even know why they needed to include this, because spoiler alert, it doesn't fucking go anywhere. Another thing that's apparent by this point, the anime also just moves like molasses. I don't know how else I can describe it, okay? It's moving and it's constantly moving, but it's also moving very, very, very slowly. Almost viscous-like. It's extremely painful. It also feels like the first 2 episodes were barely holding it together. Like that Homer Simpson meme where all his fat is tied up so he looks shredded from the front. But starting from episode 3, the show just begins to collapse so fast. From this point on, the characters all literally start to feel like AI or NPCs or whatever. Their conversations straight up feel like if you try to have 2 AIs have a conversation with each other. In fact, this entire show just feels AI generated. And it's impressive that it's not, and it's actual people that made this show. The pacing also starts to completely collapse, with conversations between characters having these weird little pauses. It's almost like the characters are all NPCs, and after every line of dialogue, they have to load in the next line of dialogue and wait for it to process in the system before they actually say the damn line. It's so blatant and really takes you out of the show. Anyways, the camp is now destroyed, so now they have to move. The vaccine is apparently almost done, so they head out and try to find a place where they can complete it out or something. Adam continues to be a dickhead softie to everyone, which I somehow found charming because, well, everyone else is so f***ing boring. We also see that Brian, the military general, is genuinely a caring dude. He tells Dr. Yoshinaga that he has watched almost all of his comrades die because of this disease and that he wants a cure so that their deaths aren't meaningless. Meanwhile, Dr. Yoshinaga is still somehow very consistently inconsistent. He never looks the same way in any 2 frames. His characterization is just an absolute disaster, almost cataclysmic. Sometimes he seems to be framed as a caring doctor who wants to save the world, and at other times he's framed to be this sus guy with bad intentions based on the way he's drawn. Like, he looks evil sometimes, but his voice acting sounds so damn NPC and bland that you genuinely just cannot tell what they're trying to tell you about this guy. During their journey, they find a big bald dude laying on the rooftop of a building, and they decide to save him. However, they also encounter a stronger, different form of Gibeah called a Meteora, who might be the strongest Gibeah to exist, but also the ugliest, worst looking Gibeah to ever exist. Anyways, this monk, who had also apparently spawned in from the past, literally without questioning any of this, just went with the flow and helping our main characters fight the Gibeah. What an absolute mad lad. Once again, we are forced to witness a shitty slideshow presentation on how they fought against a Meteora. This show literally has all of that JoJo cheesiness without any of the charisma. It's insane. Kinroku decides to fly the helicopter into the Meteora, knocking it off the building and seemingly killing it. Kinroku survives by escaping the helicopter and hanging by his ninja thread or whatever, giving us a pretty huge fake out death. At this point, it became really obvious that they would never kill the main 3 characters off, so this would just take away pretty much all of the suspense that this show had for me. Oh, and remember how a few moments ago I mentioned that Brian starts to become somewhat interesting by showing care for his deceased subordinates? Well, unfortunately, he had contracted character developmentitis and therefore became destined to die. While they're fighting the Meteora, Brian gets stung by the Meteora's needle. Anyways, let me introduce to you our 4th main character, Yukinojo Onikura, who, I won't lie, sounds like he is constantly needing to clear his throat or holding back a cough. I literally can't decide on which way to describe it.
Mega が覚めた時あのようなのかとびっくりしたわ。いや。 I
目が覚めた時あのようなのかとびっくりしたわ。いや。
や。
I
いや。
I
He's a warrior monk who fights with a big club. He was from the era of Oda Nobunaga, an era even before the main characters, and had lost his friend in a war before almost being killed himself, only to be transported to the year 2030. I honestly don't know how to feel about this character. On one hand, I actually kind of like him for reasons I'll describe throughout this journey, but on another hand, he is just as hollow and empty of a character as everyone else, but he's just, well, a lot less hollow, let's say. I mean, the GB8 wiki literally describes his personality as bold, firm, but delicate characteristics, which I think did a better job of explaining this character than I ever could. And that's still 2 more personality traits than Kathleen. Anyways, we begin to see a low-key relationship form between Yukinojo and Kathleen's mom. At this point, they've just given up on even trying to make these conversations sound or flow naturally. Every line of dialogue needs to be loaded into the system before these characters can execute their damn commands and actually say the dialogue.
出発の準備は我々がする。
我々はする。
ついでにブライアンの足の治療も済ませてくれよ。
それじゃあ近くのモールに行って生活品を探しましょう。
It's absolutely
Guess we'll
unbearable.
rock a
And
sword,
Dr.
like
Yoshinaga,
usual.
dear God, his voice literally sounds like cardboard. So I can't tell you if he's supposed to be a good guy, a bad guy, or any guy. I can't with him. Anyways, Brian
the
turns into
guy.
a Jibia at the end of this episode. Character developmentitis is a scary disease, y'all. Moving on to episode 4. Sadly, Adam had to be the one to put his best friend down. The group splits for a bit. For some reason, they decided to leave Kathleen's mom, the woman who literally cannot tell apart Jibia and humans, as we saw earlier, with the group that was scavenging outside rather than letting her stay in a safer place like the f***ing camping car everyone is traveling in. Why are they letting this lady wander around? Are they stupid? And predictably she goes missing and the others are like, oh no, where did she go? Luckily she wasn't in any danger. She was just at a
Ooh, we
museum,
got
but
an
like
Umbra
she
form
literally
or
could have
something. It's been a
encountered a
while.
Jibia and just died at any moment. They're
Yeah, I
so
have exactly
dumb. And
nothing.
what a
The Umbra form and
coincidence.
the Cypher.
This museum literally had all
Also, we
3
get some
of our
food,
main
though.
characters' weapons from the past. Wow, what are the f***ing chances? We also start getting more information about Sensui
Sorry.
and Kendaku's relationship with each other and their affiliations in the past, but to be honest,
Priorities,
every
you know?
single time we see a flashback of either of these two, it is the most boring and lame bullshit ever, and it ultimately doesn't matter in the end, so I just won't go into it. Oh no, suddenly they get attacked by Jibia, and we are forced to witness another traumatic slideshow presenting to us on how they defeated the Jibia and survived this time. I love how the enemies all just stand there and watch as Sensui slowly kills them one by one, like he's flying through a pool of molasses. It's so great. Anyways, they survive and
This
meet
boy
up in a
loves the
camping
word
car with the
molasses.
others, minus Brian because he died in episode 3. Conveniently, Kathleen's mom is a walking history book and knows all the details of all history. So we begin entering a historical drama-like retelling of the history of Japan, and this happens a few times in the show. They'll tell us a brief history lesson of Japan, and we'll get a moment from the characters' lives before they were transported into the future. And as much as I can appreciate what they're trying to do here, as someone who is not knowledgeable in Japanese history except for some basic stuff I learned in Saturday school, this was way too much information to digest in 30 seconds of narration. It does not give any
Come on
time
now,
to
just give me the
understand
same,
any of it. And you just have the narrator
without the
spitting
status
historical
duration.
Japanese
Give me
facts at you,
zoom.
like Eminem going, I don't understand.
Oh
Unless
my
you
God.
took history classes in Japan about Japanese history, you're gonna have a very hard
Ooh,
time trying to connect
man.
the dots as to what the context behind these moments are.
That's
And to be
kinda
honest,
good.
these flashbacks don't even necessarily
Ooh,
add
I
anything
wonder,
to the
is
show.
that
It's
worth
not like
grabbing?
Sensui becomes more interesting to us because we saw a glimpse of his
Fuck.
past as a samurai. Sensui is just terminally boring without any cure. Anyways, we then see another character showing the first symptoms of character developmentitis. Adam. Remember how he had to kill Brian? He took Brian's dog tags and he started to stare at them sadly. But before anything happens, oh no! The car tire popped and now the Jibia has surrounded them. Whatever will they do? We then move on to episode 5 where, oh no, the tire can't be replaced in time, so none of them might survive. I mean, who am I f***ing kidding? No, they're gonna survive. But how? Well, this time, Adam, who has a confirmed case of terminal character developmentitis, decides to sacrifice himself. It turns out that he was actually stung by a Jibia at some point earlier off screen, and so he was doomed
No, it's
to
a
die
Jibia.
anyway. He then runs outside with a bomb into the middle of all the attacking Jibia and lays down awaiting his death. He can be seen clearly shivering as he transforms into a Jibia, and his last words are "mommy." He then blows up, saving everyone else. I think Adam, despite being a minor character, is one that shows everything that fucking sucks about this show? I think Adam was genuinely a character with potential. He begins the show as a side character who has a very brash and harsh personality, but is deep down a good guy. It's cliche, but I can't hate it. He then has to go through killing his best friend, who had turned into a Jibia right in front of him,
These are
and
all
trying to
above
process
average
the
too,
guilt
huh?
he was feeling from doing that while holding onto a memento of him. And when he decides to go out and sacrifice
There's
himself,
no
he's
way that's a
absolutely
D,
terrified.
man.
Of what? I don't know. Maybe he's scared of turning into a Jibia, or he's just scared of dying. Maybe he's just always been scared and just puts on a tough face to cope with the horrors of the Jibia pandemic. I mean, his last words were literally calling for his mom. It's absolutely horrifying to think about. That one moment, that one word a side
That's like
character
minimum
said
an A.
told me more about this character than the show told me about Kathleen for the entire runtime. But the problem is, all of this just kind of happened behind the scenes, and all I could really do is just put the pieces together. We see literal seconds, frames of him being sat in the camping car. That's it. All by himself, staring at the dog tags, not even having dialogue with anyone else about what just happened with Brian. He just sulks there the entire time until his time as a side character runs out and he goes out to sacrifice himself. I thought this was a genuinely good idea for a character arc in a show like this, with characters who could be likable and interesting. Characters the viewers could care about and have their death scenes full of lasting impact. But no, GB8 instead decides to throw all of this bullshit away in lieu of making room for the boring ass main characters. I hate it. Once again, Kathleen activates her one character trait and cries because Adam was someone she was very close to, but died. Adam and Brian are never mentioned again after this
Oh,
point. We
man,
then
this
learn
is
more
annoying.
about Yukinojo. He is a pure man who respects women and despises the men who don't, and I respect that. Yukinojo then says, "If there's someone I love, I can die for them." And at this point I realized, oh dear God, is this character developmentitis? I'm starting to find myself a little interested in Yukinojo as a character, but no, they wouldn't kill him off so easily. I mean, he's also a time leaper, and he's literally on the promotional material as a main character, so he's gotta be important to the plot, right? As they take a break from traveling on the road, Kathleen is randomly captured by a net. We're introduced to the lamest crime squad in history, known as the Galleons. These dudes are a bunch of fucking corn dogs, dude. I'll tell you more about them
You
later
already
as
run
they do
Serration,
come
right?
back,
It
but
probably
just know
doesn't
that the
even
boss man is a former Yakuza head, and that these guys were all convicted prisoners who were able to escape because of the Jibia pandemic, and that they attack other humans and steal their stuff in order to survive. The boss man challenges Sensui to a duel, and Sensui literally smears his shit stains all over this man's face as he doesn't even bother trying. He just knocks the sword out of his hands like amateur hour. The corn dogs then run away, sealing their fate as the lamest criminals in history. They then travel to a tunnel, which of course was blocked off. Oh no, they're suddenly surrounded by Jibia with no way to escape. As the three heroes fight against the Jibia, someone has to go out and destroy the cars barricading the way out of the other end of the tunnel. Kathleen decides to actually do something in the show for once and goes to break down the barrier with grenades, even though it's dangerous. But oh no, she just
Gee,
tripped and is in
blood.
danger. A
So
Jibby
what if
is
this is
approaching
multi-shot?
her. Is she gonna survive or is she gonna be killed?
How is that a B
I'm
minus?
sitting here
What
on the
world?
edge of my seat. And the episode ends on this as a cliffhanger to really let that suspense sit in your mind. What's gonna happen to Kathleen?
What?
Oh God! Oh no! Not
Yeah, I don't
Kathleen!
trust this
Oh,
one at all.
Kathleen doesn't die. Episode 6 then returns to the moment where
Fuck.
Kathleen is about to be killed, and then we get a flashback to some moment in Kathleen's past where her dad cheered her up as a child. But like Kathleen is such a whack-ass character that I don't even care about her flashbacks or her sad past anymore. Just I don't care. And they really stretch out this moment of suspense. Like Kathleen is literally one of the central characters,
Yeah,
so
fuck
no
it.
shit she's gonna survive this, at least until the end of the show. She has legit the most powerful plot armor in the GB8 universe. I felt like if Kathleen was going to survive, which she did, it should have happened like 5 minutes before it actually happened in the episode. Kathleen is then saved by a mysterious pink-haired girl named Ayame, who looks like if a JoJo character and Zarya from Overwatch had a child. We are then once
Lol.
again forced to gaze upon a Kathleen flashback where she says bye to her dad for the last time. He was an American
Damn, that's almost
photographer
good.
who was unfortunately killed in the middle of a war zone. And is this sad? Of course it's f***ing sad. It's absolutely tragic. But death isn't a character's entire personality. It's something that contributes to the character's personality. But death itself can't
Not
really
bad.
be considered a character trait, can it? There's no memorable childhood experiences with her dad other than his death that made her into the way she is today, or how her dad might have influenced her personality-wise, or anything interesting like that. She's just whack as fuck. And as if the show said the pain's not over yet, we are once again met with an awe-inspiring garbage slideshow presentation on how they managed to survive the tunnel encounter. The Jibia models continue to downgrade in quality as well as the animation. They survive the fight and all ask Ayame to join the
What's
party.
with the status down shit? I don't want that.
Ayame has joined the party! Everyone say hello to
Close.
Ayame, a badass
Man, they're
former
almost
cop with a
giving me good
stoic
shit.
personality. Again, she's a character in GBA, so her personality is as shallow as it can be, but it's less shallow than the other main characters. We get to learn more about Ayame during a hot spring episode moment because, of course,
Like a
this is an
fucking-
anime, so a hot spring episode is a requirement. Ayame tells us about her past. Her mother is Chinese, her father is Japanese, and they split because her father was a Yakuza member, which, sounds familiar. But anyway, Ayame became a cop to arrest her father, and unfortunately her mother died when the Jibia pandemic began. And while this is sad, I actually think Ayame's mother won the worst voice actress in the show.
あやめあなたは日の当たる道を歩いてちょうだい
Ooh,
ね
that feels
The
kinda
episode ends
good.
with the Galleons chasing the main characters on the road, and it turns out that,
Fuck.
yep, the former Yakuza boss man is actually Ayame's father. What? What a shocking and unpredictable twist! So, yeah, episode 6 is done. Now that we're halfway through the show, I'll tell you what the characters of the show feel like. Imagine cooking a pizza. You need the dough out, getting the crust ready. Then instead of putting the marinara sauce and the cheese on the pizza, you throw them into the garbage. Then you serve just the unbaked dough. That's what the main characters feel like. And then the other characters are like regular cheese pizza.
feel like this
Still
shit
kind
does
of
not take
boring,
into
but
account
I
the
prefer it
common form.
way over the sauceless, cheeseless, unbaked pizza. Episode 7 begins with the Galleon, who somehow became the most interesting part of the show at this point because even if they were basically nobodies, they still had more personality than the main characters do, which, as you know, might be a looming symptom of character developmentitis, but who knows. The boss man is Renjiro Hatonami, a villain slash anti-hero who later becomes an ally to our main characters. He's the leader of the Galleons and used to be the boss of a Yakuza. The other members are Hat Guy, Big Boy, Minion A, and Minion B. They're all corn dogs, and
it's
it's
critical
somehow
chance.
the
This
best
ain't
part
gonna
of the
be
show.
worth it.
Big Boy even has a bit where he's physically
those critical
only able
damage.
to cook katsukuri, regardless of what
Maybe.
ingredients they find, which is like, again, somewhat more interesting than anything the main characters have ever done. They decide to look for the main characters who, as you remember, literally allowed them to survive, but whatever. Logic is once again non-existent. We're back to the two vehicles clashing, but suddenly, Meteora comes back in full claymation glory. The Meteora then morphs into another creature? I don't know. This is never f***ing explained, but anyways, the Galleon's vehicle is attacked and they are in danger. The main characters then save the Galleons while fighting off the Meteora. Strangely, however, the Meteora doesn't seem interested in stinging anyone with the needle. Even more strangely, the Meteor seems to be trying to talk? What is going on? Inside the camping car, Ayame is like, well, if the Jibia kills my father, that's fine with me. And Kathleen is like, my only personality trait, dead dad, is activated. Ayame then is motivated to do something or whatever and drives a car right into the Meteora, who
What is that,
floats
hot
away into a
garbage?
river. We get an emotional reunion between Ayame and her father. Ayame tells him to f*** off since there's no point in arresting him. Sensui then faints, so they decide to find a place they could rest while he recovers. As they scavenge the area, Kathleen's mom's character development is confirmed by Kindoku, who has an inner monologue. It looks like the mother is regaining her sanity nowadays. Unfortunately, as soon as he thinks this, a hidden Jibia stings Kathleen's mom's foot and the episode ends. It might be a bit twisted for me to say this, but I might have laughed out loud when this happened because I admittedly didn't predict this at all, but it was also so on formula. Like, Kathleen's mom started to show a sign of character development, so the show obviously had to nerf this by killing her off in the next moment. I was joking about character developmentitis, but at this point, I think I straight up might be canonical. Episode 8 starts with a vlog interview of Kathleen's mom. I already can tell where this is going, and I hate it. It's gonna be all sad and emotional, even though Kathleen's mom has shown less personality than a f***ing potato, a piece of food. I hate this show. Everyone realizes that Mama Kathleen was stung, and Kathleen understandably begins to freak out because her mom is most likely going to die very soon. Everyone rests, but Kathleen's mom slips out during the middle of the night without anyone noticing. Kindoku and Ayame go out to search for her while Kathleen watches over Sensui and Yukino-jo stays to protect her. Kathleen finds a letter written to her by her mom apologizing for not being able to make it to the end of the journey, and Kathleen begins to cry. Very unfortunately in this moment, Yukino-jo begins to show symptoms of character developmentitis. Over the
Oh,
past
no.
two episodes, Yukino-jo and Kathleen had formed a sort of father-daughter relationship with each other. He tells Kathleen that he will be there for her and won't let her be alone anymore. Kathleen gives him her lucky charm and sews it onto his clothes in a very wholesome moment. Sadly, this scene had pretty much sealed Yukino-jo's fate as he had hit terminal levels of character developmentitis. As Ayame and Kindoku research, we see that Kathleen's mother had hidden herself in a car, hearing the sounds of rushing water get louder and louder, sadly sealing her fate. Oh no, the Jibby are attacking once again! Yukinojo pushes Kathleen back into the building and shuts the gate to save her, and the episode ends on a cliffhanger where it really seems like Yukinojo, a man who I thought was supposed to be a major character in the series, would die. But there was also the possibility that he might survive, since he hadn't really played that big of a role in the story yet, so I'm sure there must be more to his story arc, right? Well, in episode 9, GB8 answered this question for me in the most disrespectful way possible. Ayame and Kenroku come back to a war zone, where they find Yukinojo slumped over, dead, killed off screen, stung by a venomless Jibia stinger over and over and over. As Kathleen mourns her second father figure that she just had bonded with, they find Kathleen's mother's corpse, half transformed into a Jibia. Turns out that seeing Kathleen's mom as a Jibia may have shocked Yukinojo for a moment, allowing him to be killed in a moment of hesitation. Very tragic. I said this was disrespectful because they decided to do all of this important off screen in between episodes 8 and 9. They didn't even show us a singular glimpse as to what might have happened to the two supposed to be important characters. They just spoon-fed us the information like we're a bunch of toddlers. It's even worse because while this is tragic as hell, they also did all of this character building and bonding off screen. Like they developed the relationship between Yukinojo, Kathleen's mom, and Kathleen basically all in the background or in extremely shallow random moments that felt like AI trying to pretend to be people. The show gave me no reason to think that all of this was something I need to care about. Here are two characters who arguably were a big part of the show until this point, both going through character arcs behind the scenes without us knowing, and then are both killed off screen, and then the show expects us to actually care. When I Fusroda, a random NPC in Skyrim, and they die, do I really give a shit or feel sad about it? No! That's how shallow this show is. But want to know the craziest twist? Kathleen doesn't actually even go through any character development after this awful and traumatic event. She just stares. We see her stare, all sad. And that's supposed to be her character development or arc or whatever after losing her actual mom and her newfound father figure. That's literally not good writing. It just feels like, hey, if we make this character go through tremendous amounts of traumatic incidents, then she's automatically a well-written character. And people should care about her, right? No. Do I feel sympathy? Yeah, I mean, a girl just lost her mom and her newfound father figure in the same damn night. But feeling sympathetic is just like a human thing to feel. I mean, some feel it more than others, but I think most of us feel sympathy, right? But having sympathy cards doesn't equate to an engaging and well-written character. It's just the show trying to convince us that this is a deep and sad and meaningful show, when there really isn't shit there in the first place. And I understand killing non-main characters off-screen, but killing main characters off-screen is bold in my opinion. Even the minor characters of the show had more of an impactful death scene than Yukinojo did. And they really hyped this dude up to be like the fourth main character or some shit. Like, is this some kind of modern torture method? Is this the anti-good storytelling movement? Like, every time any of these characters begin to show an ounce of any sort of character trait beyond basic NPC, they are pretty much 100% fated to die at this point. The only reason why the three main characters are still alive is because they are physically incapable of being interesting. By this point, it might be really obvious to y'all too. But the character writing is like impressively bad. Like, you'd have to try for it to be this consistently bad. It was continuously getting harder to care about the show. The more characters they kept killing off meaninglessly, the less of a shit I gave. I mean, characters are pretty much the backbone of a show, so of course the show will collapse if you keep breaking off parts of the backbone. Episode 10 starts with the main characters being surrounded by Jibia again, but our favorite group of corn dogs, the Galleons, come to save them. Now the Galleons are their allies, yay! They save the main characters to repay the debt they owe for saving their lives. Denjiro might be a piece of shit, but he's got his own code, which is respectable. Okay, so he is basically confirmed dead, because unlike the main characters, Denjiro is actually somewhat interesting. Also, at this point, the fight scenes are literally a chore to watch through. I don't even want to describe anything about it anymore. Oh wow, Denjiro protected his daughter, Ayame. What character development? Now they're finally understanding each other. After the fight, they all stay in a building where I think Dr. Yoshinaga's lab is located. Oh, wait, you remember who I'm talking about, right? He's the guy who's trying to create the vaccine to cure the Jibia disease, you know? He's actually been there the whole time through everything I just described to you. He just contributes so little to anything that there was just nothing about him to bring up. And in this episode, the show finally remembers that he's a character that exists, and we start seeing him actually do other than just exist. Also, it's as if the major deaths that happened in the past 2 episodes just don't matter anymore. We watch Kathleen get sad for a few minutes, but that's it. Big Boy cooks his signature katsu curry. As they eat, the creators of the show finally remember that the main characters are literally from 400 400 years ago and are not from this era. So they decide to tell us that they remember this by having them talk about curry and modern medicine and them teaching that to Sensui and Kenroku. Nenjiro suddenly starts to tell lame-ass puns. He begins to talk about his past with Ayame's mother and how they used to eat katsu curry together, and it's like a pretty wholesome conversation that actually felt kind of meaningful, unlike most of the other dialogue in this damn show. Unfortunately, the character development-itis is very strong in Nenjiro, especially because he was quickly becoming my favorite character. We finally return to the original plotline of saving the world by creating a vaccine for the Jivia virus, as Dr. Yoshinaga does one of the 3 things he does in the show: research. The other 2, he drives and, well, he exists.
Yeah,
Ayame and her dad have a heart-to-heart where they resolve the years of their conflict in literally a few minutes. While this story arc is by no means good, it was at least doing the bare minimum by existing, I guess. Unfortunately, this just meant that it wasn't just Denjiro infected with character development-itis anymore, as Ayame had just contracted it as well. Dr. Yoshinaga says the journey is almost over, with the vaccine almost being complete. They then show us a flashback of everyone who had died up to this point, as if they expect me to give a single thought. Moving on to episode 11, we get a vlog interview of Dr. Yoshinaga, who mentions that he had a lover a very long time ago. When asked why they split, Dr. Yoshinaga responds with, "I never said we broke up. Anyways, interview over, lol. Oh no, the Meteora once again attacks them. The vaccine is almost complete. Oh, wait. Remember how Dr. Yoshinaga mentioned that he had a lover like 2 seconds ago? Wait, does the Meteora have boobs? Wait, wasn't it trying to speak before? Oh, no way. The vaccine is complete, and Dr. Yoshinaga begins to say to himself, she'll regain human consciousness. Oh, so the Meteora is Dr. Yoshinaga's lover, or was at some point? Wow, what a twist that came straight out of nowhere. Honestly, this twist would be more impactful if Dr. Yoshinaga wasn't just a piece of fucking cardboard. Everyone fights the Meteora, but not all at the same time, mind you. No, they all fight him one by one, taking turns while the others watch. Like they're waiting for their turn at a fucking arcade game, but somehow they actually end up killing the Meteora. Suddenly, Dr. Yoshinaga stops being a piece of cardboard and instead starts to become an illogical little brat. You see, he was really angry at them because they had killed Meteora. Wait, what? Why is he getting upset at them? Now the story decides to take the most insanely out of left field twist as they finally reveal Dr. Yoshinaga's backstory. It turns out he isn't just a piece of cardboard, but he's a piece of cardboard from another planet? What? Okay, so Dr. Yoshinaga and the Meteora are actually aliens from another planet. On his planet, if they drink the blood of a god named Soma, they gain special powers. However, if you were incompatible with the blood, then you became a failure and turned into a monster. Meteora's father was trying to create artificial Soma blood, and Dr. Yoshinaga was his apprentice as well as Meteora's fiance. One day, Meteora drank the artificial blood and was placed in cryostasis while Dr. Yoshinaga looked for a treatment. The ruler of the planet died around this time, and a war broke out over the Soma blood. Dr. Yoshinaga fled from the planet with some samples from failures, but flew too close to the sun and damaged his spaceship, separating the Meteora's cryo capsule, which also contained the other creature's blood samples. It fell down to Earth, more specifically to Europe, and Dr. Yoshinaga orbited the Earth for a while before ending up in Japan. Because Dr. Yoshinaga and the Meteora are from the same planet, they had similar brainwaves or some shit, and that's how the Meteora was able to track them down. I mean, I know, like, what the fuck? What? I'm genuinely shocked. This is an insane plot twist, but not in a good way. It's just a plot twist that basically makes everything that happened in the show feel so pointless. Why did I waste my time watching this show for this stupid ass twist? Dr. Yoshinaga begins to act like a snotty little brat, saying that there's no point to a treatment anymore now that Meteora is dead. Except, I don't know, there's also the rest of the entire planet you ended up infecting because of your stupid ass, but whatever. Whine a bit more, won't you? And how is nobody absolutely livid at this piece of shit for completely lying to them the entire time about all this? I mean, he was literally the reason why the Earth was destroyed. It turns out that Dr. Yoshinaga was indeed absolutely butchered in terms of characterization. It's almost like they didn't know how to make it so he wasn't suspicious during the series until the twist at the end. So they instead just made it so he barely showed up in the series and barely interacted with any of the other characters until the last 2 episodes of the show. Now, out of nowhere, Dr. Yoshinaga is just whining about how he wants them all to die, or he can't let any of them live anymore, or whatever, and then throws an injection needle that stings Ayame, and it turns out that it's a virus that makes humans transforms into even stronger Jibia, basically
Oh,
killing
no.
off Ayame from the series for no reason at all. I guess we did see the character development-itis forming earlier, so I can't say that I'm surprised, but still, this is lame as hell. Oh, and now that Dr. Yoshinaga actually showed some kind of change in
This
his
guy
character,
fucking
that
sucks.
also just marks his fate with character development-itis. Rest in peace, worst character in the show. Anyway, he stabs himself with a needle too, along with the vaccine, which would allow him to transform into a Jibia but retain his human consciousness. Dr. Yoshinaga is then all like, I want to avenge Meteora! Even though A, the entire show, he literally helped them fend off the Meteora every single damn time, and B, he could have, I don't know, mentioned to them literally anything about it? Like, hey, I want to maybe test this vaccine on the Meteora before anything else, just to see the effects, so please don't kill it. Literally anything! But none of this was mentioned
I gotta
or
run this
even
solo.
hinted at until now. So why is he getting fucking bitchy about this? It was his responsibility. He knew all of the truth, and everyone else was just trying to survive against an unknown virus. What the fuck? Are you an idiot? He could have said anything to at least have them hold back against the Meteora, but no. He said nothing, then got all pissy because they were just defending themselves against the danger. What an absolute idiot. Ayame unfortunately transforms into a Jibia. She then wipes out pretty much the entirety of the Galleons, which is absolutely no surprise to anyone as they had shown signs of character development the entire time they were on screen. Ayame is killed by Sensui, and Denjiro pretty much loses everyone he cared about in like 2 seconds. Basically, max speeding his character development-itis to terminal stages. We then watch as the others allow Dr. Yoshinaga to transform into a Jibia. Like, kill him now before he becomes a real danger! Hello? Why are they just watching him transform? God, this show is so stupid. Anyways, Kenroku fights Dr. Yoshinaga briefly before he begins to stumble towards the Meteora and getting all upset, looking like he's unable to fight for some reason. I have no idea. But instead of actually killing him when they have the chance, they just let him do his thing. I mean, the show was really bad until this point, but this episode really just became the nail in the coffin, I think. This story has lost its own plot. Episode 12 is the final showdown. I love that even the final episode is somehow still a slideshow, but I can tell they upped the budget for this episode by like 5% because things are actually moving a little bit more in this fight. Dr. Yoshinaga is literally blaming everyone else for killing Meteora. Like, I can't. Somehow, in a show full of terribly written, surface-level characters, Dr. Yoshinaga manages to outdo them all by being the worst written, inconsistent NPC in the entire show. It just doesn't make sense in the context of the entire series I've watched until now. But I think this might be the worst part of the entire twist ending. It turns out that the time slip was caused by the professor bringing the Jibia to the Earth. He was using brainwaves to fly his spaceship, which sounds almost comical when I say it out loud,
Almost.
but the
It's
ship was
definitely comical.
destroyed and the remnants orbited the Earth before
They're
becoming
using
comets that
brainwaves
fell.
to fly a
Kathleen
ship.
had wished upon these comets for some kind of power, and the matter in Dr. Yoshinaga's spaceship that reacts to brainwaves reacts to her wish, using its power to grant the wish, bringing the 3 men from the past to the future. Like, I'm sorry, but this is so dumb. And now Kathleen gets all upset and sad because she thinks it's her fault that Yukinojo died and the other 2 suffered. Like, even though it's literally not her fault though. She was just making a wish. How is she gonna blame herself for this? I can't. I genuinely had to pause at this moment to yell and complain. She was wishing for power during moments of weakness and hopelessness. It's not a fucking crime. Pinning this on her makes no sense, and her blaming herself makes no sense too. It just makes me so mad. Turns out Dr. Yoshinaga is just a piece of shit. He was just gonna save Meteora and go back to his planet while leaving the Earth to be a Jibia-littered war zone, but
It's too late now since they killed Meteora.
the samples the main characters were collecting for him weren't for a cure after all, but rather for a vaccine that would give Jibia consciousness without turning them back into human. He was using them the entire time. Nenjiro
Damn it.
asks Sensui to avenge Ayame and tells Kathleen to live on for her, and then goes in and gets stung by the professor. However, like the absolute mad lad he is, Nenjiro says thank you and then blows himself up with the dynamite as he calls for Ayame. During this distraction, Sensui goes in for a swift kill. We get a bunch of extremely random flashbacks from the perspective of the professor where he remembers all of the moments he had on Earth,
Alright,
but
got the
I'm not
endo.
even sure
Exactly
why
what I
they do
wanted.
this. Like, who gives a shit? Anyways, he gets stabbed and blown up. Predictably, the only remaining characters at the end of the series are the 3 characters that had absolutely no character development at all. Sensui, Kenraku, and Kathleen. As the Jibia begin to swarm them, they all run to escape. They find a boat and Kenraku and Kathleen go on it, but Sensui cannot as he reveals that he had been stung. They have a tearful goodbye where
Oh,
Kathleen gives him
no.
a GPS, and Sensui promises that they will meet again, and the show ends. Ugh. So that is the full GB8 experience condensed for your viewing enjoyment. Honestly, I've seen some horrible anime, but it's hard to find one that makes me this upset about it. The reason why this anime makes me more upset than something like Conception, where the story and concept are so stupid that it's hard to even take it seriously in the first place, is because GB8 actually had the potential to tell a great story. It's not even like the characters or the concept of the show is bad. I think the ideas are actually engaging, and I just found myself feeling disappointed at the colossal waste that is this entire show. This anime tries so hard to mean something but completely fails to do so. None of the characters are interesting. The enemies literally look like the wandering animatronics from FNAF Security Breach. On God. The dialogue lines take way too long to load sometimes. The ending twist is one of the worst attempted plot twists in anything I've ever seen. It's hard to find a show that is this truly a waste of time. The only thing that changed between the time I started this anime and by the time I finished it was that I had used up a few hours of my precious time left here on the planet Earth and wasted it on this garbage. I have gained absolutely nothing from this show and lost way more than I'll ever get back. I think the anime I can compare GB8 the most to is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo is a very cheesy show, but that's also what makes it so charming. They really play into the cheesiness too, from the absurd story concepts, the stands, the characters and their very unique appearances, the music, and the fight scenes full of inner monologues. It felt like GB8 wanted to be another JoJo, but ended up with all the cheese without any of the charm. And at least JoJo killed off characters after we got to know who they are and became attached to them. And honestly, I saw some people say online that the music was the only part they liked about the show, but I low-key was not really too impressed with the music. Maybe that's just me being biased because of how much I hate this show overall, but whatever. God, this show sucks. I mean, there's also that weird part about this show where it kind of weirdly predicted COVID somehow because it was announced before COVID, and then literally the next year a pandemic happened and worldwide and like shut everything down. I don't know. Conspiracy theory. Did GB8 cause COVID-19? Anyway, sorry. Am I able to give like negative scores? Can I give a -5 out of 5? Don't even bother watching this garbage. It's quite literally a waste of your time. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe for more anime content. As usual, a huge shout out to my members. If you would like to get cool perks, then make sure to check them out, and I will see you in the next video that I decide to make. Peace out.
Now, with all that explained, we can now move into the first major incident, and that is,
Damn,
of
it's
course,
always gonna be
the
Blast
first
and Toxic,
confirmed 52 victims. Now, when Light first found the death note, when it conveniently dropped right in front of him, he thought to himself, man, this is some bullshit. What is this, a sick joke? Who the hell would believe this? But Light, being a little curious George, decided to take the book. So later on, when Light got home, bro was a little bored. So he ended up thinking in his head, I mean, it doesn't hurt to try it out, right? So Light's intrusive thoughts took over. So he ended up turning on the news and hearing, breaking news! A local crackhead is holding 8 children hostage at a daycare.
Not
so
again.
Light said, it. Let's write this guy's name down. I mean, he's a criminal after all. So 40 seconds later, the news comes back on and says, breaking news! The children have been set free and the assailant just over and died. Well, this man Light was shook. He was like, no.
Ooh, we got the best week. Nice. Bro, man. Beyblade's a threat to society. What the fuck? Drewski got arrested? Oh no. Fuck it. Hot dogs.
Today we're turning every type of meat into hot dogs.
They're eating the dogs.
From Wagyu A5 to Python to dry-aged camel, it's time to answer one of life's most important questions. Will it dog? Will it dog? Will it dog? dog, will it? And there is a surprising amount of controversy around whether or not a hot dog is a sandwich. So let me know down in the comments what you think it is so we can settle this once and for all. Now, hot dogs are typically made with beef, pork, or some combination of the two, but today we are of course getting way more exotic with it, but for our very first contender, we're going with beef. In the beef category, we'll be keeping one traditional with a chuck roast, while the second will be an extremely premium hot dog made out of Wagyu A5. Now, the hot dog gods might get mad at me for turning this beautiful Wagyu A5 steak into a hot dog, but some things must be done in the name of meat science. See? Hot dog.
Man, that
gods,
Clear
what you got?
Obscure Expedition 33 looks so fucking cool.
That's all you guys got?
Is this all you can conjure, Saruman?
We'll start by slicing up the chuck roast, and this is the perfect cut for our standard all beef hot dog due to the rich flavor and fairly balanced meat to fat ratio. Typically, we'd like to aim for around 20 to 30% fat. Next, we'll slice up that Wagyu A5. This stuff is literally over 50% fat, so honestly, I have no idea if this will even work as a dog. And now we grind. And the key is keeping the meat nice and cold for way easier grinding. At this point, the beef is nicely ground, but we're actually gonna put it through a second and third time at an even more fine grind. As you can see, it's already a lot more fine. Time for one more round. That is quite the time-intensive process, and at this point, that meat is as ground as it's gonna get. Gotta be honest, this feels very wrong, but it is time to grind a Wagyu. Not this time.
No! God, please, no!
This stuff is crazy. I mean, it literally looks like all fat when it's ground up. It's almost like butter. And one more grind. It's already looking like a mini hot dog, but we should be good to go. Starting with our all beef chuck roast hot dog, it's time to season. We have all sorts of seasonings here like onion, garlic, coriander, and mustard seed. I'm shooting for a traditional hot dog flavor with this one. Another interesting ingredient we'll be adding is this milk powder. This stuff is gonna act as our binder. Last but not least, our pink curing salt. This is gonna give us that distinctive cured look and taste. And we'll give it a mix, slowly adding in our ice cold water. We have a nice tacky texture with great protein extraction. This should be perfect. And we'll do the exact same thing for the Wagyu A5. And the Wagyu's taken on a significantly more like orange color. Doesn't look super appetizing at this point. Kind of looks like pate or something. And it is finally time to stuff the meat.
How are you gonna stuff all that meat, Max?
I'm glad you asked. I give you the Meat Master 5000. And we'll add our hot dog meat to the hopper.
Yeah, it seemed a little better on
Load her up.
I forgot to
Throw
scan
on the
it. I'm so
casing.
stupid. That's the whole reason I'm here, man. What
That
the fuck?
dog is killing me. I'm trying to make a dog over here. And we'll stuff the dog. And we have lift off. Oh, it's perfect. Come on.
That is a perfect sized dog. Very substantially girthed hot dog.
This is going perfectly well. Oh, air pockets. There we go. Now we're cruising.
Stuffing beef hot dogs. This is exactly where I thought I'd be in life right now. That sound was weird.
I'd say that is a pretty successful log of dog. I feel like jump rope with this thing. Nicely packed with pretty limited air pockets. This should be perfect. Finally, we'll just twist off the
dogging
hot
around.
dogs. Next up, the Wagyu A5. And this is what a Wagyu A5 ribeye looks like in hot dog form. And just based on color, you can really see the difference between the darker chuck roast compared to that Wagyu A5. But all that's left to do is let them cure in the fridge overnight. It has been 12 hours in the fridge, and this is what we got. They've firmed up a bit, though still relatively soft to the touch, and you can see how the cure has darkened it up. And the next part of the cooking process is to throw them in a sous vide bag to cook. And in they go at 142 Fahrenheit. 2 hours are up, and they should be done. Next, we'll throw them into an ice bath to shock and stop the cooking process. I cannot believe how good these look and smell. I also don't know what I was expecting, but these appear to be legit hot dogs. Some hot dogs have an edible casing, but I recently found out that a lot of the popular brands you'll find are skinless. So we're actually going to peel the casing off like so until we're left with this. And there it is, our links of perfect Wagyu A5 hot dogs. But I can tell so much of that fat has rendered out. This one should be interesting. I'm gonna cut right in between here, that juicy part. Oh, honestly, that is kind of gross. I will remove that casing from the Wagyu A5 dog. So much of that fat has rendered out. Really hope this thing still tastes good. Completely covered in that rendered fat. Gonna give it a quick rinse. This is the final result. Time to cook them up. They're already cooked, so just gonna heat them back up with a quick steam, followed by a touch of oil to get them nice and crispy. Because whether it's hot dog or steak, the crust is always my favorite part. Right off the bat, you can see that the Wagyu A5 hot dog is significantly smaller than the normal beef dog. I'm just really hoping enough of the fat remained inside to keep it juicy. Hit them with some simple toppings of ketchup, mustard, and onions, and after slicing into them, somehow the regular chuck dog just visually appears to be way bigger and juicier than the Wagyu A5, which is the last thing I was expecting. I mean, that Wagyu A5 one seems to have some major shrinkage. We are starting off very tame here with our first hot dog. Cheers.
Your hot dog skills have improved a lot. The last hot dog I ate that Max made was in the Costco parking lot. That was disgusting. This one is super good and actually has the consistency and texture of a real hot dog.
Flavor is really nice as well. It reminds me of a classic hot dog.
I'd say it's slightly more dense than some of the store-bought stuff, but this right here is a 10 out of 10.
It even has that little booty thing, you know? The little booty scrunches.
I think we can all agree that when it comes to chuck roast,
it dogs.
Moving on to number 2, and this one is extremely special.
Gritty is the only word I can describe. It's not good.
I get dry.
Okay, our first hot dog was a $1 hot dog. This is like a $50 hot dog.
Whoa.
This is a Wagyu. That is so disappointing. Every time I grind Wagyu, it inevitably turns out to be a massive mistake. Did not work on the Slim Jim, did not work on the hot dog. Will it work on the meatball or the meatloaf that I have planned in the future? Kibby, bad timing. You want some dog? You're a cat. No cat, no dog for you. You're eating the dogs. You're eating the cats. In a massive disappointment, and unfortunately that means that Wagyu A5
does not dog.
Next up, chicken dog. We have our finely ground chicken, but the seasoning on this one is very different. In my opinion, there is nothing better than buffalo chicken, so I'll start by adding this Frank's buffalo seasoning. I'm telling you, it smells exactly like the sauce. And when it comes to the question of ranch or blue cheese, I am a firm blue cheese believer. So this is half milk powder, half blue cheese powder.
Why choose? I like mixing
That
bitches
is the
together.
texture we're looking for. Time to
Ranch-flavored
stuff
blue
the chicken
cheese is the
dogs.
best.
Oh man, that is a snug fit. Speaking of a perfectly snug fit, that brings us to the sponsor of today's video, Bombas. You all know I love my black t-shirts, and it's super important that they actually fit, are durable, and feel good. These check all my boxes. The fabric is soft, breathable, and there's no itchy tag. It feels like I'm wearing a cloud. The socks are also next level. There's no annoying seams on the toes, and they hug your feet just right. You can really feel the difference. But best of all is the underwear. They're extremely breathable with the perfect amount of stretch. They've spent years on R&D, testing and creating products for ultimate comfort. Bombas is also a purpose-driven brand. With every item purchased, one gets donated. They make the top 3 most requested clothing items in homeless shelters, socks, underwear, and t-shirts, and have donated over 100 million clothing items across the US. Feel good and do good with Bombas, knowing your purchase is doing some real good, not to mention their 100% happiness guarantee. New customers get 20% off their first purchase. Just click the link in the description or go to bombas.com/max and use code MAX20 at checkout. And after 2 hours in the sous vide, our buffalo chicken dogs are done.
They just
It
become
definitely
immune to fucking
smells
glue
very
after a while?
chickeny. Not particularly in a good way either.
It actually kind of smells like raw chicken even though it's cooked.
I'll remove the casings, quick sear, and assemble the buffalo chicken dog. Topped with some spicy sauce, carrots, celery, and blue cheese, and I have to say it is looking way better than I could have hoped.
Wow, Max, this one is a piece of art. It's beautiful. Altogether, the whole bite is really good, but I'm having trouble tasting just the dog.
I absolutely love it. Taste the dog on its own.
Wow, that is great.
Right?
Texture, great.
Love the texture.
Juicy.
I love the flavor. The texture is actually pretty good. That's a great hot dog.
It still has a bite to it, but you get like that Frank's powder, a little bit of the blue cheese. Do chicken dogs dog?
They dog.
Venison hot dog, and I have high hopes for this one. This is a beautiful venison backstrap, and it's extremely lean, so I decided to add a bit of pork fat to the mix. With our venison ground, we'll add in all the spices. Venison also pairs perfectly with fresh herbs, so we're gonna try adding some fresh rosemary, as well as some of my chimichurri seasoning. I have no idea if fresh herbs can go in a hot dog, so we'll see how this goes.
That's a dog right there.
That's a dog right there. That's really good.
All right,
and we're left with our perfect venison hot dogs that will cure overnight. Our venison dogs have cured, and after sous videing for 2 hours, I gotta say they're looking great.
I think it's just regular 4,000.
This one smells amazing. At this point, you guys know the drill. Remove the casing and sear them up. Topped with a homemade raspberry mustard glaze to complement the wild game meat flavor, along with some dried rosemary for a little extra pop of texture and flavor.
Tibby's eating a broom and he's gonna throw it up. Tibby, what the man? Whoa.
I love it.
I love it.
I love it too, it's so good.
That jam, the herbs, texture, this is like holiday in a dog.
It's a hollow dog. Paired with the venison, it has those like wild herbaceous flavors.
Super good sauce, and then that fried rosemary. It adds a really nice like crispy flavor on top, so good.
That one for sure.
Dogs.
And next up we have a cat dog. I'm just kidding, Tibby. I would never turn you into a dog, much less a hot dog.
Unless.
We've heard of salmon burgers, so why not salmon dogs? Salmon is significantly more delicate than the other meat we've used today, so I'm a bit skeptical that it'll even hold its dog shape. The Wagyu felt wrong, but this feels pretty wrong too. Whoa, that is crazy. Pretty crazy texture at this point, but we'll give it one more grind. We've achieved salmon mush. For the salmon, we're sticking with our original spice mix, but we do have an interesting addition. This is a whole fresh wasabi root. At $100, the real deal is for sure a premium ingredient. We'll remove some of that outer bark and we'll grind it up on a traditional shark skin wasabi grater. These things are super cool. Kind of crazy, this is legit shark skin. Wow. It just tastes so much more natural than the bottled stuff, and it for sure has a kick to it. And we'll add it to the mix. We gave it quite a bit of mixing, but the texture on this is just completely different. It's a lot more wet, and the protein extraction doesn't seem quite as good, but there's only one way to find out. Uh-oh. Okay. Whoa. Hello. Oh my.
Looks like a carrot.
Not gonna lie, that is a stunning color on this log of salmon dog. And just check out our salmon hot dog. Honestly, it looks more like a carrot dog. I have to say these might be our best looking dogs yet. Into the fridge to cure. And after curing and sous videing, this is how they look. M for Max. We'll slice off our individual dogs and remove the casing. Somehow they seem to have maintained their shape. Thought this one would completely fall apart, but it's extremely firm. Hopes could not be any higher right now. And we'll give it a quick sear. Topping this one with a little bit of tartar sauce, and because the fried rosemary on the last one was such a hit, finishing with some fried dill. We are still in relatively tame territory, though I bet you've never seen what's inside of here in dog form.
Please tell me it's not like turtle or something.
I wouldn't do that to you again.
I don't know what I'm eating, but it tastes pretty good. The sauce is great too.
If I didn't know what this was, I wouldn't know what it is.
I really like the flavors, and honestly, that little crispy dill on top adds a good textural change because it's a lot of the same texture.
The sauce is more powerful than the dog flavor.
So inside of this dog is virtually 100% salmon. Like very limited additives.
Even knowing what it is and tasting it on its own, I still can't really tell what it is.
I would think it's like a chicken or a turkey sausage, and it's juicy.
I'd say we're all in agreement, somehow, salmon dogs.
It dogs.
It does dog.
On dogs.
We are reaching some truly uncharted territory. It's time for lobster hot dogs, AKA logs. Thank you, Mr. Lobster. I appreciate you. Very carefully removing as much of this lobster meat as possible, which is significantly harder to do when it's raw. Now, because this lobster meat is so delicate, we're actually grinding by hand. Feels weird doing this to lobster meat, but we want this super, super fine. We've achieved lobster paste. We'll add in all our seasonings, and to freshen it up, we're gonna finish with some lime zest. Doing everything by hand with this one, and it has a similarly wet texture as the salmon. Something about this doesn't feel right. In with the lobster. Oh,
Look at that thing.
Well, there it is, guys, our lobster hot dog. Honestly, I had very little confidence it would ever get to a point that it actually looked like a hot dog, so I am pretty
lobster
happy.
dog is fucking delicious.
You can see those little flakes of lime zest in there. I mean, that right there looks like a hot dog. With our perfect lengths of lobster dog, we'll let this cure overnight. And 12 hours later, our lobster dogs have been cured. They feel very soft, almost juicy. I hope these maintain their shape. And into the sous vide it goes. 2 hours are up, and it should be done. And ice bath to shock. Peeling off the casing, we have what may just be the first ever lobster hot dog. I never would have guessed lobster crisps up like this. The crust is somehow better than any of our other dogs. Finished with a tarragon cream sauce and lime zest, I give you a lobster hot dog.
That dog looks a little sus. Burned and all warty or something. Oh, I do not like this one.
I love the flavor. Zesty, herbaceous, not fishy, but I can tell it's some sort of seafood.
I hate everything about that. The texture, the flavor, the sauce.
Let me try just the dog. I got a shell.
I think it dogs.
You know my answer, no way.
There's parts of it that I love. Unfortunately, today I'm gonna have to say that lobster does not dog.
Come on, guys.
Flavor was good, texture just wasn't there, and the more you eat it, the weirder it gets.
I'll have it.
This is a crazy one, dry-aged camel hot dogs. Camel is an extremely gamey meat, so I can only imagine how it will taste in hot dog form. And cutting into it, I can't lie, these camel steaks look better than some beef ribeyes I've seen in stores. Finely ground, dry-aged camel. It weirdly doesn't smell gamey at all because I know for a fact that camel tastes very gamey.
Tastes like a barn smell.
You know, I should put
Salt, binder,
/
sugar, and curing salt. We have a super potent Middle Eastern spice blend that I'm hoping will mask some of that funky camel flavor. Let's stuff that camel dog. And we have liftoff.
No, because then only
At
3 out
that
of 4.
low. They never believed in me. They said I didn't have what it took. You know what I say to them, Kyle? Look at me now. That is a perfection log of diggity dog.
Yeah, you sure showed them, Max.
Zero part of me believes this dry-aged camel hot dog will taste good, but at least visually, we should be good to go. And just like the rest, our camel hot dogs have been cured in sous vide, and this is how they're looking. We'll remove the casing, and it looks very similar to the venison and beef hot dogs from before. The crust also looks consistent and super amazing, probably due to the fact that it's been dry-aged. Topped with some potent whole grain honey mustard to hopefully cut through the gamey flavor, and that right there is a dry-aged camel dog. Nope.
Max, what the was that?
When you eat camel in its non-dry aged form, it is excessively gamey. When you dry age it and then throw it into a hot dog, the gaminess compounds like ×7 for one of the worst bites that I've put these people through. And I've put them through some crazy stuff.
It's like newer with mustard on top.
I distinctly remember that bite of camel we had last time. A whole barn's worth of flavor condensed into a hot dog.
It was also just super dense.
Grainy, funky. Like, long story short, it does not dog.
Not dog.
We have made it to our most exotic hot dog, python. Fried Cajun python nuggets is pretty much the only way I know of people eating python, so we're adding a bunch of Cajun seasonings, followed by the milk powder binder as well as the pink curing salt. And just like that, it's ready to stuff. At this point, we're basically professional hot dog stuffers. I mean, just look at that consistency. Well, this python started as a snake, and in its final form, it is once again a snake. Oh! Well, we've unfortunately had a casualty, which has only left us with 2 usable dogs, but either way, they're looking great. Let's let them cure. After curing and sous viding, the python dogs have taken on a pretty light color, but so far they're looking good. That was great. Slice them up and remove the casing to reveal a significantly lighter colored dog than usual, and gave it a quick sear until a perfect golden brown exterior. Finish with some Cajun mayo and lemon zest to brighten it up, and it's time to eat.
What is in our stomach right now? Lobster, camel, venison, beef.
Do you want me to bring the opossum dog
I take it
out?
back.
I'm bringing out the opossum dog.
I take it back.
Little tuna dog.
Y'all ready for this?
I have no idea what this tastes like.
The flavor is very mellow.
It's a mild flavor.
For me, it's just like, it'll taste like whatever sauce you put on it. The sauce is great. It's kind of, it's like Cajun-y, spicy mayo. It's certainly not bad, and I think with the sauce on top, it's pretty good.
It kind of reminds me of the chicken dog.
Honestly, if I knew what I was eating, I think I would enjoy it.
I think so too. This is python. This is a snake.
I was thinking if I went to a baseball game, would I order this over a classic dog? I might.
Yeah, who the hell is ordering a python dog at a baseball game?
Does it dog?
I think it dogs.
It dogs. Does it dog?
It dogs.
Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
And like and subscribe right over here.
Humans have been preserving meat in sugar and honey for thousands of years, so today we're gonna try it with every type of meat. From whiskey bourbon brisket to agave syrup salmon to a lamb covered in jam, we'll find out if this technique deserves a place in modern cooking. It's like meat candy. Or if it should be left in the past.
That is the worst I've ever eaten.
Let's get started. First step, let's check on these meaty contenders. We have a beautiful whole salmon, tomahawk, pork ribs, gotta have a brisket, lamb leg, beef rib, Thanksgiving turkey, and a loaf of bread. Psych! Ham. Tomahawk, pork ribs, gotta have a brisket, lamb leg, beef rib, Thanksgiving turkey, tomahawk, pork ribs, gotta have a brisket, lamb leg, beef rib, Thanksgiving turkey, whole salmon, ham, 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 whole salmon, ham, 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 ham. First up, turkey, and we'll be curing it in an herb honey for 7 days. The combinations will get crazier and crazier, but I'll start by seasoning heavily before the soak to ensure some salt content to cut through all the sweetness. We've let our turkey dry brine for about 2 hours, so a lot of that salt has penetrated. It's time to add the honey. Honey has plenty of preservation properties, but especially complemented with herbs like rosemary and thyme, I'm hoping it'll lead to some great sweet flavor. Not gonna lie, this feels very wrong, but we are just completely covering the turkey in this herbaceous honey. Our turkey is fully submerged and bundled up. We'll be seeing him in 7 days. Next up, we have a tomahawk, and it is a thick boy. We'll be pairing it with something my dad used to eat by the spoonful, molasses.
Nonsense.
And again, we'll season it up ahead of time. So dark and thick, completely different than the rest of them. This stuff almost looks like black tar, but as it's less sweet tasting than honey, I'm hopeful the deep flavors will pair well with beef. And we'll see you in 7 days. Next up, we have beef short ribs, and this one's a little bit different. Unlike everything else we'll do today, this one is not being soaked in liquid, but we'll start by hitting it with salt and pepper. While the rest of these have been syrups, for the plate ribs, we're doing brown sugar. Starting with a layer down below, short ribs on, and we'll completely cover it up. Get on in there. Oh, yeah. I truly have no idea what the result of this one's gonna be, but either way, let's move on. We got lamb legs flying out of the sky, and it's about to get jammy. I got beans, greens, potatoes, tomatoes, chickens, turkeys, hams, lambs, jams. Starting by removing some of that silver skin and fat, just for better flavor penetration. Lamb fat can also be gamey, so I generally like to trim these quite well. And we'll season it up on all sides. Because it's lamb, we gotta go with jam. Start with a bottom layer. This one is a lot thicker than what we've been working with before.
That's gotta be enough.
In with the lamb. This is very weirdly satisfying, almost soothing, you might say. And we'll be back in 7 days. Time for ham. This is going to be a truly hot honey baked ham. Speaking of hot honeys, hi Tibby. Tibby, God, oh, he just wants to.
He just wants snuggles.
Starting with honey, we'll add some Fresno peppers, some chili flakes, and debatably the spiciest pepper in the world, some fresh Carolina Reapers. Went a little too crazy with these in the last video, so only gonna add a bit of these. At least I think that's just a little bit. That looks deadly. Ham in the pot, or I guess vessel, honey on the ham. Ham is already cured, and I have no idea what happens when you double cure something, so this one should be very interesting. Jarring up the ham, moving on. This is significantly heavier than expected. Wow, where am I gonna put this thing? Ribs. Ribs and pork in general work super well with sweet rubs and glazes, but
disagree with that. Yeah. of
Okay.
course. Right.
So when I say import, I just mean as soon as you say, "Oh, look, we're not doing anything. The doors are open. Borders are racist. Come on in."
Well, no, like, okay. I'm arguing against a very specific point. I'm not arguing that immigration did not increase under Biden, illegal immigration or people seeking asylum claims
pretty good
increased under
amount of
Biden,
Indo.
because it did. That's a fact.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not arguing that the Democrats' leniency or whatever you want to call it about, oh, you can't be against it because it's racist, is not going to create an attitude of permissiveness, or not going to create an attitude that's going to incentivize people to come to America, because that
Right.
did happen. Or
That's all
I
I'm
guess we don't
saying.
know for 100%, but that's a logical thing to assume would happen.
We're totally in agreement.
Yes. Okay. What I'm contesting here is this idea that, well, there's some sort of Machiavellian notion by the Democrats to intentionally import people into the country so that either they will vote, somehow you'll get them to illegally vote, or
kind of
they will
good
have
gloom.
children who will then vote for Democrats, and it's part of some it's all part of some sort of plan. When what you said is what I think actually happened before, which is that you have because if you look at, under Obama, and you look under, it started having a tail under Obama, but you look at the beginning of Obama, and you look under before that with Bill Clinton, the Democrats were not like, oh, we need to have, importing a bunch of people, need to have open borders, none of that shit. That wasn't like a big Democrat talking point. And the only thing that changed is that wokeness comes into play. It takes over the mainstream, it takes over the left, and the big idea about wokeness is everything is racist. You have to be so afraid of racism. And they're going to hit white people with the racist stick and make everyone guilty and say, oh, everything you do is racist. And so then you have a situation where the Democrats are afraid now, because they're getting hit with the racist stick, to push back against, to tighten up immigration restrictions, because it's going to be perceived as racist by the woke mob. Okay. To me, that seems to be the main motivation, then combined with the fact that Trump pushed so strongly on immigration in his first term, or in his first campaign, and the Democrats are just reacting to counter that, be against that, so they're going to hit Trump with a racist stick, so then they have to take the opposite position. Those are the motivations, the very clear motivations I think we all saw publicly, for why the Democrats had the positions they had on immigration, under Trump's first term and under Biden's first term.
Viral heat.
Not this sort of Machiavellian, completely never proven, never shown to be proven, completely goes against Biden deporting 4.4 million people idea to bring in people into the country to have them vote for Democrats. Which, again, that doesn't. And then another reason that doesn't even make sense is, and this came up in the David Shore Ezra Klein conversation, the Hispanic population is swinging more to Trump. They're swinging Republican. If it's just about the votes, the Republicans should then see that information and then switch their position to be more favorable to people coming in the country and voting Republican. I mean, you look at Florida. Florida's going more red, I think, has shifted more red than any other state, and it's shifting red in direct proportion to its Hispanic population increasing.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying this notion, they just keep pressing it, has never been proven. It is part of this conspiracy theory that people just keep pushing because it's a useful narrative to push.
You don't think there's any connection between immigration and expanding the voting pool for either party? I think they're completely divorced from one another.
I think that post hoc. I think post hoc I think there were Democrats that post hoc would celebrate the quote browning of America because they thought it would help them win elections. Yes.
Yeah, they talked explicitly.
They did talk about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And we've talked about them talking about that.
But that had nothing to do with their open door policies.
I think that had to do. Well, hold on. Okay, you keep saying there. Okay, you acknowledge that the Democrats, the Republicans, like people, are not some sort of hive mind that are all acting in unison, right?
Of course not. Look,
okay,
Obama probably deported far more people because he was black, and he wasn't worried about being called a racist.
Well, Biden, as I said, Biden deported 4.4 million people, right? And the media didn't call him racist, which is kind of fascinating.
Well, I think, I think Obama deported far more. Everyone always points to Obama as
he did not.
The deporter in chief.
I don't believe he did.
Oh, really?
No.
Huh.
It said, I think Biden even surpassed Obama. But so there are people like AOC, there are far left people who wrote those articles, who are going to cheer on the browning of America, who are going to say, yes, this is a good thing, either because they think white people are racist, because they hate American culture, because they think it'll help Democrats win, right? But does the broad Democrat base or the broad Democrat political leadership believe or making an intentional decision to bring immigrants in the country for that reason? No, I don't think that's the case. And no one has ever really made a strong argument for that to be the case, other than, well, it feels like it should be the case.
Well,
because they don't want to believe that it's just
primed
massive
hellfire,
incompetence.
The people who've made the strong case for me are in the Dictator's Handbook, Selectorate Theory.
That's not. No. Okay, that's
Bruce Bueno de Mesquite.
That is the fallacy of someone saying, "Here's a framework for how people can behave," and you saying, "Well, I'm just going to apply this framework to behavior."
He literally talks about immigration in the book.
He said
I went back and read it recently.
He said that in the Biden administration, after the book was written, that the reason the Democrats
he didn't.
are...
No, but he talked specifically about immigration, obviously. Look, this conversation has gone on forever. Back when I was firmly on the left and thought all Republicans were just lying pieces of shit, I would hear Republicans make this argument, and I would say, oh, this is not the case at all, obviously. Liberals just care about people, like we're more caring, we have empathy, you guys don't have any empathy, so you don't understand. But as soon as I read it in Dictator's Handbook and they made a compelling argument for it, I was like, well, maybe...
Okay, let me ask you a question. Do you think if the shift continued and became super visibly apparent that people coming in from South and Central America would vote Republican, okay? Do you think the Republicans and Democrats would completely switch sides on the issue of immigration?
Yes.
Okay. I think that's completely not true. It would never happen because it goes against the core, my understanding of the core principle of how conservatives and progressives view reality. And this is where our disagreement is.
That's really good, though.
Okay?
Yeah.
I say that the right has the view that problems come from outside society and infiltrate in. So they're naturally going to be
corrosive blast it is. Fuck.
Where people on the left have the opposite view. They view that problems come from within society and you need new ideas coming in. So they're going to be more naturally in favor of immigration.
Okay.
And those are the grounding principles of the left and the right. So it doesn't actually matter.
According to your belief system.
To my belief system, yes. According to how I'm viewing this.
So if this was true, this would threaten your belief system.
If it turned out that, like, hypothetically we had a situation... No. I'm saying what would threaten my belief system would be if in the future we see that immigration becomes a massive net positive for Republicans, and then there's a massive switch where Republicans become super pro importing people from South and Central America, and the Democrats become super anti doing that. That would be the thing that would threaten that worldview.
Right, because the parties would have switched.
Because it would show
but
that,
I could totally see the Republicans going... I mean, didn't Reagan give amnesty that people are still complaining about to a bunch of illegal aliens? I believe he did.
The idea was supposed to be, we're going to give people amnesty so that they will pay taxes, be productive citizens because we can't deport them, and then we're going to close the borders and not let people in. It was part of this compromise idea.
So look, I could totally see them going through the numbers and being like, oh wow, these illegal aliens from Mexico sure do vote Republican. maybe we should adopt some compassionate conservatism here and like make them all U.S. citizens.
Yeah, but I could see that, but that's not what that was not what I laid out.
Right. Well, it would go to the people who are interested in immigration around expanding their political coalition.
If Trump did that, like if they looked at the numbers, which I mean, could be fucking true.
Trump
they
would
say,
totally
hey,
do that.
you know, a lot of people. No, I think Trump would, but Trump's not. I don't think Trump is an ideological person. If Trump did that, if Trump said, hey, we're looking at the numbers, we think that the majority of people living in the country illegally will vote Republican. I want to give them all amnesty.
Why doesn't that do more damage?
His base would lose their fucking shit. They would go insane. They would revolt against that action, even if he wanted to do it.
Right. Yeah. And I don't look. He's not motivated to do it because he can't even run for president.
Well, he doesn't. Yeah. Why would he care? But I'm just saying. So I don't agree with that conception of there is a. Here's what I think you have to be careful with the cynical nature of politics. Politicians are very cynical. Politicians are going to do things to maintain power, to expand their power. But they still have to exist within the framework of whatever the ideology is. Or they have to switch teams. Okay, and so that's why I'm saying I don't think Trump or the Republicans could just become the open border candidates under really any circumstances, unless there's a complete ideological switch between the party.
I mean, they did change their tune on the COVID vaccination pretty quick, but I mean, that's not obviously immigration.
I'm talking about this specific issue. I'm not.
Yeah, I
other
know.
issues that they can switch. Yeah.
I've seen them switch, obviously turn on a dime on certain issues, but immigration I think is obviously far more deeply rooted in the policies of both parties. So
this seems pretty good, even though they're immune to viral.
I asked Grok. It says Barack Obama deported more than Joe Biden. Overall, 5.3 million. Joe Biden reported 4.6 to 4.7. Obama deported more though because he was a two-term president, obviously.
Well, that's a good. Yeah, but so in his first term, Biden deported much more than Obama did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's definitely those shields.
Yeah. Okay. I do look. It's not a.
All right, bump heat.
And I understand your revulsion because I think obviously Elon Musk and many Republicans completely overclaim that that's happening. They overcharge that it's happening, but it's happening to some extent. I don't think to the extent that they're claiming. That's my personal belief. I realize we disagree, so. Anyway, we can move on.
Important than offering a genuinely compelling narrative of its own. That same liberal establishment quickly jettisoned support for social justice movements as soon as it felt they'd become a political hindrance. All of which lands us in a pretty strange spot. In a previous era,
they rejected all the social justice stuff. They turned on BreadTube.
This video of Elon Musk hurling a Hitler salute would have been political suicide. In 2025, it's the mark of someone who has a deep understanding of our shared structure of feeling. In a video I made nearly 5 years ago now, I argued that a key part of Elon Musk's appeal as a real-life Tony Stark, as he was then seen, was that the technologies he sells offered an enticing vision of the future in an era which had largely forgotten how to dream of such things. That appeal is a key part of his newfound popularity on the right. But what I perhaps overlooked in that previous video was that it's not only about being able to visualize a different future on a practical level, but about a desire for a politics which makes us feel again.
For better or probably for worse, Musk and Trump's politics is a highly emotive one. It has heroes and villains. It speaks to greatness and not only power but empowerment.
It channels a...
This guy. This whole video is about fucking heroes and villains. Fuck.
Well, it's also incredibly
highly emotive.
It's all like they're wrong about postmodernism, but I'm not going to tell you why they're wrong about postmodernism.
Right. Well, and this whole video is just about demonizing Republicans, conservatives. Yeah.
Yes.
for no fucking apparent reason.
A meta-modern structure of feeling which constantly swings like a pendulum back and forth between ludicrous displays of hyperreal, attention-grabbing nonsense and a terrifyingly sincere politics. Establishment liberalism, whether in the form of the Democrat Party in the US, the Labour Party in the UK, or many of the ailing centre-right and centre-left parties in Europe, doesn't presently seem to be able to do either of those.
Let me go back to the immigration thing for the last time here. Okay, I think that really, I think there's something that's being missed here, and I think it does completely conform with the Dictator's Handbook. The Democrats and Republicans are political parties that are going to respond to their voting base, correct?
Of course, yes.
Right. And so if we're in a time period where the perception for the Democrats is, hey, from Democrat voters is, hey, the Republicans are racist, they're blaming immigrants for everything. Democrats differentiate themselves by not blaming immigrants for everything and for being more permissive or more empathetic to immigrants and allowing them in the country or whatever. Okay, that's going to be what's going to motivate Democrat politicians to behave behave the way they're behaving. They're listening to and being motivated by the direction they think their voting base is going.
It should be better.
And I
than
think that is clearly in evidence because the second that changed, the second that the Democrat voting base went, oh my God, the immigrants are being shipped to our states, to our cities. Now we do have a big immigration problem. What happened? Joe Biden switched and tried to, they tried to pass the immigration bill in Congress, and then when that didn't work, he used executive order to close down the border.
Right.
And that should show again. So that shows a clear line of they're reacting to the voting base as opposed to this sort of secret plan to, have a bunch of people come in and illegally vote.
Could throw in some more.
It doesn't change anything with the fact that they were happy as long as the voters were going to red states where they could gain an electoral advantage hypothetically in the future. I mean, it doesn't change that. I get it.
Okay, that's not
you're constantly doing this balancing act. You're trying to make your voters happy at the expense of the people who are not voting for you, or the people who are voting for the people who are against you. So I agree with you that as soon as the immigration becomes a problem for their winning coalition, they're going to do something about it.
Right.
But ultimately, they want to. They still want to expand that coalition in any way possible without hurting their current voters.
There's a difference between someone shrugging and saying, "Hey,
this is pretty good.
I don't really care if there's immigrants coming in because I think they're going to vote for me," versus saying, "I'm intentionally bringing people into the country so that they vote for me." These are two very different ideas.
No, and I agree. Okay. Look,
right, and so I'm saying that yes, the Democrats could shrug and they say, well, I don't care. It's, it's going to help me down the road, so I'm not going to do anything about it. That's very different than saying, oh, I'm intentionally weakening the border, doing these things to bring it in, when the motivation was, I don't want to be racist. I don't want to be appearing to be on Donald Trump's side. Even Obama was getting flack for the kids in cages and all this other shit. And they kind of set themselves up for it because, again, part of it was, Trump comes in and starts blaming immigrants for everything. In his first election campaign, the Democrats and mainstream hit him with a racist stick, so they kind of position themselves are like, well, can they do anything about immigration, or are they going to hit themselves with a racist stick?
Yeah,
appear hypocritical.
No, I'm not saying that they're basically shipping people into the United States. I'm saying that they realize that the incentives are people want to come to the United States, and all they have to do is put their hands in their pockets and let them come. They're not.
But I don't think. But that's not really what happened, though. What happened was people came.
Seems like quick chance is better.
Because again, if that was the case, why wouldn't Biden have removed the COVID immigration restrictions as soon as he became president? Why did he wait 3 years to do that?
Well, he's probably afraid of COVID.
Do you think that was it? They were really like, oh, all these immigrants are bringing COVID, so we're gonna remove the immigration restrictions.
Maybe. I mean,
I don't
look,
think so.
he was out of it.
Well, I'm
Who
talking about
knows
the
why
Biden
they did it.
administration, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't know what decisions Biden was personally making. He's, vegetable, right?
Yeah, but the
Yes.
Biden administration could have literally been afraid of COVID.
I don't
I mean,
think
I
so.
still see Terry Lorenz wearing a fucking mask everywhere. What the
Yeah, but
fuck is
okay.
that all about?
I think what seemed to be clear is that the Biden administration, whoever was doing the thing, they were all fine with projecting wokeness, as the Democrats were, but then they wanted to actually keep the border as close as they could. They wanted to keep the COVID restrictions in place, and they did until they literally couldn't, because the COVID emergency situation, which gave the president the powers to do what they were doing, went away, in Biden's third year. And so they were using that to deport people en masse because they understood they're not fucking stupid, okay? At least they're not that stupid. They understand. I mean, obviously they're very stupid with how they thought they were going to fix things with the CB1, so maybe they are stupid. But they were obviously aware enough to see and say, okay, if we start having immigrants flooding in this country in record numbers, it's going to completely destroy Biden's ability to win the second term because people are going to be, mad. And that's basically exactly what happened. To some
Right.
extent, obviously inflation played a key part here too.
Seems
but-
good, but I think the
Yeah.
viral, magnetic, everything.
Well,
was better.
I mean, I don't think that they're actively like recruiting people. I don't think they're on the phone in secret meetings saying we got to get more
Well, that's the argument that's
coming.
being levied by
Yeah,
Elon
look,
Musk
and
all those people.
I said the Republicans are completely overstating this. They're turning it into like a conspiracy theory, right?
Right.
But I do think generally Democrats think, okay, brown people are going to increase our electoral advantage in the future, and if we can just look the other way, and we're incentivized to look the other way because of racism and stuff like
Right.
that, it's like a
Right.
twofer. It's like a win.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Yeah.
It is tougher for the Republicans to turn, like if they discover that a lot of the immigrants are voting for Republicans, and they're like, wow, this is good for us, maybe we should just change our position on immigration. It's going to be difficult because of the current cultural environment doesn't align with that interest. But I'm sure they're going to be working on it. They're going to be working on turning those cultural interests around because it's too big. It's like free money. It's too
I don't
big
think
an
they can.
incentive for them to not take advantage of.
I don't think it's unless there was another massive party switch. I don't think it would be possible for the Republicans to switch on immigration.
I mean, this completely goes along with what Elon Musk and people in the
the
Trump
Prox
administration
fucking
are saying,
good
though.
work.
When they're deporting people, they're kind of making the argument that they're deporting like fraudulent voters, right? Democrat
Yes.
voters.
That's
Yeah.
the justification. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So you believe that that's motivating them on mass deportation, right? They're like, we're getting rid of their fucking voters.
Well, I don't know if Elon or Trump believe that. I think they're saying that because it's good propaganda for their voting base to support the actions.
Mass deportation.
Mass deportations without due
Okay.
process.
So they're just saying it. They don't actually believe it.
I have no clue. I don't know if Elon. I mean, Elon's a
I
liar.
think they
I think
believe
Elon
it.
could 100% believe that shit. I think Elon believes a lot of stupid shit. I don't know what the fuck Trump believes, but
Right.
so.
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
Anyway, we don't have to argue about immigration anymore. I mean, there's a bunch of horror stories, but I'm not keeping super track of them. So, I'll let you know when one of my friends gets deported. I don't know if they're even doing it I mean, I've heard some interesting stories in Los Angeles from friends of mine and whatnot. So,
Well, do you think it's? I mean, I never would have predicted in 2024 when the election was happening that we'd have a situation where whoever the winner was in 2025 would be making arguments about how we literally should not have due process for people, and having a bunch of their supporters just echo that. I would not have predicted that people would have just out and out been like, yes, we should not have due process, fuck due process. There's just too many people.
well, they're saying no due process for people who are not American citizens. They're
Right,
not saying no. Like, I would be worried if they're like, no, we don't need due process for fucking liberals. Then I'd be like, wow, shit.
I mean, first of all, you have to have due process for people who you're claiming are here illegally, or you're claiming here part of a gang or something, right? That committed some crime. You have to have due process for that.
To deport them?
For both. To deport to make sure. How do you make sure someone is here legally?
Well, I guess you're right. I mean, I'm assuming that they're adjudicating whether or not they're here illegally and they're deporting them.
I would hope, but they somehow deported a person that the court said they were not supposed to deport. So how'd that happen?
Yeah. I don't know.
And then that's even worse because
have an ID.
I don't. Well, that's even. Well, now they knew exactly who the guy was, and that's even worse because the guy wasn't just deported. Because if he was just deported, I think people would complain about it, and there'd be a different situation. It was he was sent to prison.
Yeah.
And so you have people being sent to prison without due process.
No, I feel horrible
pretty
about
terrifying.
those guys. That one guy is like the gay guy that they deported is just horror show. Yeah.
Right. Who they had people go down. A bunch of Democrats went down to try to talk to him, and I don't believe they were given access to him, so they don't know what's up with that. Even that guy's in a what's up with him? Is he alive? Is he healthy? No one knows.
I mean, this has got to be really disincentivizing people from coming here illegally, right?
Well, I'm sure that's part of the idea.
I mean,
sure.
it's actually kind of sad because it's disincentivizing people who might come here illegally just on vacation.
Well, that's another thing too, because there's I don't know if you've been seeing.
They're terrified.
I've seen dozens of stories of people who are not coming to America to immigrate, who fly to America, who are Europeans, or flying to America for vacation or something, who Border Patrol is all tizzy about something that they have, and they send them back, or they hold them in detention for a week before they send them back to Canada or England or whatever fucking country they're in.
All right.
And it's going to drive tourism down for a lot of areas of the country that need tourism to survive.
Tourism from Canada is down 30%.
Wow.
Which I mean, how much are we getting how much money for the tariff are we getting? It seems like we're losing the money on tourism.
Right.
And we're a complete service economy. I've heard Vegas is just a ghost town. So
really?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's a ghost town, but it's definitely the tourism is down, considerably. So yeah, look. Trump is getting kind of pounded into submission here. So he came in and he's like, I'm going to get a bunch of stuff done. And now everything he's starting to think, do I want to leave the White House with the economy in worse shape than when I actually came in after all my fucking braggadocio and complaining about
it's pretty damn good.
Biden and Biden's economy and Bidenomics.
Yep.
He's like, I don't know, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, he's going to be relegated to the fucking Oval Office. They're not going to let him come out.
I mean, we'll see. It's very possible fucking Trump goes back on all the tariffs anyway, so just completely folds on all the tariffs.
Yeah, he's going to fold on everything.
Yep.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
It's all the art of the deal, okay? He's going to get some amazing deal, right?
Is he?
I'm being sarcastic.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, when he was in his first term, he made some trade deal with Canada and Mexico, and now he's saying that deal sucks, sucks ass and completely needs to be readjudicated. So
what's going on with the reconciliation? When does this tax cut come down with the $3 trillion increase in the debt ceiling? That's what I want to know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's the next catalyst for the economy to start.
Well,
improving.
hey, listen. At least the Trump proved the conservatives correct in terms of you should be wary of all the America printing money and creating debt that gets sold overseas. That was proven to be correct.
How so?
Thanks, because it showed that if you get into some trade war or piss off some country, they can just start dumping bonds on the secondary market, and that's going to make your bonds go, value.
I heard it wasn't even China, though. I heard it was Japan. Japan was the one
they
that
thought
was
originally
bonds.
it was Japan, but now they think that because it's continuing to happen, they're thinking
they can't tell the difference between Chinese people and Japanese people.
That is
Those
what they're
fucking
that's
racists.
That's what they're saying. So, No, it was originally Japan that did it, that caused the big
What the fuck?
kerfuffle originally, but now they think China is also participating in it continually as
When's
part of
Powell
their
resigning?
part of the tariff war here. So,
When is Powell out of here?
well, I don't know. Apparently, the rumor was Besant and Lutwig convinced Trump to not fire Powell. So,
Really?
yes,
Is that the rumor that's going on?
That was the rumor. Yeah, that was a few days ago.
Oh, okay. We'll see. I don't approve of what Powell's doing anyway.
I mean, I don't either. Got to get those interest rates down. So.
That's right. What is this boring video we're watching again?
We're
Who's this
almost done.
Tom Nichols guy? What's going on with this guy? He's got 500,000 subscribers here. Who watches this trash? Bunch of poor people.
Those things all that convincingly. They continue to operate within an increasingly outdated structure of feeling where wearing the right suit, saying the right thing at a press conference, and avoiding accusations of being too ideological were enough to carry the day.
But postmodernism is dead. Liberal inaction on the many crises facing our world is part of what killed it. Mounting a meaningful answer to Trumpism requires first acknowledgement.
Liberal inaction. Don't you
Yes.
love it? They didn't throw enough soup cans at famous works of art.
Be a socialist, liberal in action.
That. And then building an alternative politics which can speak to the meta-modern structure of feeling which we find ourselves living in now.
Blah, 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 blah. This guy's a joke. This guy's a joke. No wonder no one's voting for you. You're all a bunch of losers. Oh my god. Witnessing the worst tracking shot of all time.
That was pretty bad, yeah.
And if you want to join a very serious political movement, I'm sure you'll be able to find one in Abolish Everything. The new comedy panel.
Was that a digital track? Or do you think that was like real?
No, that was like...
Wait a minute.
Which can speak to the meta-modern structure of feeling which we find ourselves living in now.
Fluid head there.
And if you want to join...
That's like, okay, I mean, it's, first of all, the focus is all fucked. But it's like...
Well, look, it's hard to pan and focus at the same time.
Why? Yeah, but he doesn't need the pan of focus because the focus should be the same
The
for
fuck
the
just
entire
killed
shot.
me.
He's not doing some kind of complicated tracking shot. With
Right.
He's not, nothing's moving except for the camera.
Yeah.
But no, it's because, I mean, it's like, you know, when you zoom in on something, all the little tiny movements you make with the camera are going to become exaggerated.
I got a tripod, though, that has like a super fluid head that you can just totally
Well,
do
you
that
got to
with.
do that if you're going to do that kind of U-shaped or L-shaped tracking shot.
Yeah.
Or zoom, I should pan, I should say.
Look at
tracking,
us.
a pan. Yeah.
Don't talk
That's
to
really
us
bad,
about
though.
film.
I mean, why?
We'll
you should
make
just
fun
not-
of your tracking shot.
we would. Well, if the pan comes out like shit, why don't you just get some different B-roll? Because obviously that was a fucking mistake, right?
Yeah.
In a very serious political movement, I'm sure you'll be able to find one in Abolish Everything, the new comedy panel show brought to you by the team behind Jetlag the Game and available to watch exclusively on Nebula.
Okay, so wait, get this. Listen to like how even their comedy show is socialist themed. Okay.
Is it? Okay.
Yes. Listen to this.
Each episode of Abolish Everything features 4 comedians using every ounce of their rhetorical skills to rouse a live studio audience into abolishing some aspect of modern life which really grinds their gears, all the while opposed by the political establishment, who will try to shoot their arguments down. The first season of
Oh my god.
Damn, that's
It's
great.
literally a fucking socialist comedy show. You have to argue in favor of abolishing something, and the political establishment is going to stop you.
I got to admit,
Really?
I'm conflicted on the abolish the dentist.
That you're in favor of, yeah. There you go. God.
Do we get to abolish them by beating them to death?
And you know they were sitting around like, okay, guys, we got to make a comedy show. How do we make a comedy show, but that also aligns with our socialist values?
So silly.
You know that was the thought
Right.
process. Yes.
Abolish Everything features some great special guests, including Kyle Gordon, Annie Rauwerder from Depths of Wikipedia, and Dan Toomey from Good Work, and it's been so popular it's already been recommissioned for a second season. Abolish Everything is available to watch exclusively
didn't get anything
on
done,
which I will never subscribe to. So fuck
maybe
off.
our Tory is stronger.
I mean, we do want to watch Philosophy Tube's movie one of these days, right?
Yeah, someone sent me the movie. I
Oh,
think it-
really?
Yeah, I have it, so we don't
Okay,
have to
then
subscribe
there we
to
go, we don't
Nebula
have to
do it.
subscribe.
1, 2,
Perfect.
3, 4, and then I need what?
All
Citrine
right.
Anyway.
And
All right,
Daggett.
Tom.
Goodbye,
Very,
Tom.
very depressing work.
Wrong one.
The poll was 2,158 people voted.
Oh yeah. How'd
The
it turn
question
out?
was, I watched Candace Owens.
Right.
5% said I'm a regular viewer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. This is a very poorly worded poll.
You think
It
the
says-
number 4 is Candace is an evil grifter?
Well, hold on. It says, I watch Candace Owens, and then it says, I'm a regular viewer. I'm a regular viewer of Candace Owens, or are you a regular viewer of us?
Oh yeah, I mean of Candace Owens, obviously.
Okay.
Too poor.
Well, I hope everyone interpreted that correctly. So 5% said I'm a regular viewer of Candace Owens, maybe. 12% said they're an occasional viewer. 48%, the clear majority, said they never watched Candace Owens. And then 35%, second place, says Candace is an evil grifter.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that. There's
I'm
your poll.
surprised. No one in our audience really. I mean, it's minuscule that even pay any attention to
go.
Candace Owens. So
Right.
good for you guys.
Good for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
2 more. Okay, not too
Very
bad.
cool.
David Pop says, would you please finish this video or kill me?
Yeah, I pinned that.
That's funny.
Do you guys like it when I pin your comments? Sometimes it's funny when I pin one and the person like retracts the comment because they're like, what are you doing?
Oh, really? They're
Why
like,
are you pinning
no!
that comment.
That's
Look,
funny.
people do funny comments and I pin them. So
Right.
I figure they get that now.
Thanks so much, JMac or Circa Far for the 50 gifted memberships.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you, new members. Welcome.
All right, that's it for me.
Welcome to the jungle.